So here I am with some horsetail. I've got horsetail in its 2 stages of growth. So I've got one that I harvested here. This is the current stage here in mid-May in Ontario, southern Ontario, southeastern Ontario. And then here are the original shoots of the horsetail. So this is such an interesting plant. I thought I would talk about it today. It's a tremendous medicine. It's very mineral rich. It's really supportive of bone health, teeth health, skin health. Just really helps to support the integrity of all the structures of the body, strengthens the tissues, helps to prevent microbes from getting into excessively that you don't want, helps to reduce inflammation, and really helps to mineralize the system with the good minerals that you need. Last week I made another video about ground ivy, which is really helpful at taking out heavy metals in the system that would displace the minerals that you need. And then when you do that, you also want to make sure that you are getting a good dose of your healthy minerals and trace minerals. And horsetail is a really good plant to work with to help bring that stuff in. So I'm Tamara, Hawthorne Herbals, and I'm talking about horsetail today, right at this stage where we have the horsetail visible in its 2 stages of growth. So this is such an interesting plant, and it's pretty easy to identify when you look at it. I mean, you can identify it here with these little needles, but then did you know that it starts out like this, these little brown asparagus looking things? So this is the plant's reproductive method. This is an ancient plant. Apparently it's been around since prehistoric times and used to be big trees. These used to be trees, and they made themselves small to survive ecological changes. So the story goes. I wasn't there, but apparently these used to be trees, and they are very ancient, and their method of reproduction is very ancient. So they're not like angiosperms, flowering plants, or trees. They're not like gymnosperms that make cones and pollinate themselves by creating pollen and then pollinating their cones. They use this old method that's kind of like the way that mushrooms use to reproduce, which is that in the early spring, before these things come up, just these brown shoots come up. They look like little brown asparagus shoots. They have these little things at the top that look like asparagus. They create spores on here, and then they throw the spores out onto the land all around. The land receives them, and shortly after that, these horsetail shoots start to come up, and these guys, the little spore things, die back. Eventually the whole thing just dies back. It's the end of its life cycle, which is just like a few short weeks long, maybe 2 weeks long or something. And then you have the horsetail, which grows like this, and it starts with these really little needles, these little needle-like leaves, and then they grow, and as the plant grows, and here's another one, really early stage, okay, and then they start to grow a little bigger, and then they start to grow a little bigger. Okay, and where was my sample that I was holding, my trusty friend? I lost it. So, yeah, they keep getting bigger. The needles keep getting longer. And I'm going to find another sample. You'll come with me here. Thank you, horsetail. Whoop. There we go. So there's a nice sample. So they keep getting longer as the plant grows over several weeks. And the other thing that happens as they keep getting longer is that these little needle leaf-like things you'll see up close, they've got, these kind of joints at the leaves. and you can see them really well on these guys, the little joints, right? And then you can see them on these guys, these joints, okay, that the leaves grow out of. So as the leaves grow out of these little joints, they grow they grow upwards, and then they also grow outwards. So this is like just starting. These leaves are like, they start up and they're right up close against the stalk, and then they start to, as they get longer, they start to grow outwards, outwards, outwards. And eventually they'll get quite long and they'll grow outwards, and you see these horsetail plants, they're about knee height, and they're like these long crazy needles in every direction. Now they're still staying pretty neat and taut to the stem, to the main stalk. So that is basically the life cycle of the horsetail plant. This one comes up from the spores of these ones, and then it keeps growing throughout the season until it dies back in the fall. And the time to harvest horsetail is basically any time from once you've got a significant amount of needle that's pointing upwards and like up tight to the stalk, anywhere between there and once they open out to about the 10 and the 2 on the clock. Once they open further, there is too much silica in the plant for it to be considered healthy to harvest, because that silica is, although it's really healthy and important, and I'm going to talk a bit more about that, if you take it in too large amounts, it is irritating to your system, particularly to your kidneys, which have to process it, because the silica is it's a bit sharp, it's a bit crystalline, and it's kind of like little shards going through your system in larger amounts. It can cause irritation. So we stick to anywhere between upright to between the 10 and the 2 on the clock. That's harvest time for horsetail. We have a few weeks basically starting now around here, like we are in mid-May, and we probably have about a month here. But if it gets really hot and dry really fast, sometimes it'll open up faster. There are some different varieties of horsetail. Equesitum, this I believe is Equesitum arvense. Equesitum arvense, but there are different equisitums, and they will look slightly different, might have thicker needles, thicker stalks, or no needles. There's one kind that has no needles, and they will have a bit of a different growth cycle in terms of so ideal time to harvest might be different. So I'm talking about this particular one that I happen to have in abundance here. It grows in big abundance. It grows in wet-ish areas, so we're on the edges of the forest here, and it's kind of, the forest is sometimes known as the big swamp. It's a pretty wet area, so the horsetail likes to grow here. You'll find it alongside ponds, lakes, things like that. Sometimes grassy areas, but areas where water will accumulate at least in certain times of the year is where you're going to tend to find horsetail. And pretty rich soils, so it's taking up a lot of the good minerals from the soil. So horsetail is a plant that helps to nourish the integumentary system. It nourishes the teeth, the hair, the skin, the nails, the bones. I give horsetail to people concerned about bone health, to people that are dealing with lots of tooth issues, or that have maybe lost a tooth and are trying to have had a tooth pulled and trying to get new bone growing in, like for a graft or something like that. I make tooth powder with it that I brush my teeth with, because it is so high in many minerals, and particularly silica. Horsetail is really known for the silica content. So the silica in the body turns into calcium, which then nourishes your bones, your teeth, etc. So this is a great source of calcium. So I don't eat it. It's not exactly a food. It's a little too astringent. It kind of wouldn't go down that well to chew and stuff. I do make extracts of it that sometimes might take the form of a broth, so in that sense I'll eat it, or a tea, so I drink it. So horsetail can extract nicely in water for getting the minerals out, but when I extract horsetail in water, I always simmer it. So I don't just make tea and pour hot water and let it steep. I let it simmer on the stove for at least 10 minutes. And the reason I do that is because that makes it, first of all, it will extract the minerals more easily because you're cooking it longer, but also it will, excuse me, it will be easier on your nervous system. Horsetail can actually be really nice and strengthening to the nervous system if you take it in that way. But if you just steep it as tea, what tends to happen to some people is that they will feel a little bit of kind of irritation or a kind of grating sensation on the nerves. And I've experienced this before. And the reason is because, or at least one of the reasons, is because horsetail has an enzyme called thiaminase in it, which will break down thiamine, vitamin B1, in your system. So you need thiamine, your nervous system needs thiamine. We take B vitamins to nourish our nervous system. If our B vitamins are getting depleted and we are in great need of them, we will feel the effects of that depletion and this irritation in the nervous system. So we don't want to deplete our thiamine, so we cook out the thiaminase enzyme by simmering horsetail in water. So you can chop it up about a small handful per cup, or a heaping teaspoon per cup of chopped up dried herb, small handful of fresh herb per cup of water. Put it on the stove, heat it to just below the boil, then turn it down and let it simmer for at least 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes. Then you can strain that out and you can drink it. It's a bit, it doesn't have very much flavor, but it's a bit kind of like a vegetable. Like, it's got all these minerals, they're kind of like salts. So I do like to actually add salt or miso or tamari to this. Onions, you can make a nice broth and just drink it, or you can cook this in with your broth, whatever you're cooking in your broth, veggie broth, bone broth, whatever. Put this in like a little tea bag or tea ball or whatever, and let it simmer in there with it. And it can simmer in there for hours if you're cooking it for hours. And you'll get all these minerals just extracted into your broth. So it's a great way to add some good minerals from the wild, from the lands around you, into the soup broth that you're eating. The other way that I eat it is I extract it in apple cider vinegar, chop it up and put it in a jar, half full to full, chopped up in a jar. Cover it with apple cider vinegar. Put a lid, ideally a non-metal lid, over it so that the vinegar doesn't corrode the metal. Put that in a dark place for at least 3 weeks. And then after that, you can strain it out and you can just add that vinegar to salad dressings. You can take like a teaspoon of it per day. You can add it to your hot water with cider vinegar in the morning if that's what you like to do, because that's a good cleansing thing to do for your liver. And then meanwhile, you'll be getting the boost of all the minerals when you do that. So the vinegar, the acidity of the vinegar, draws the minerals out and makes them much easier to absorb in your system. And that's why I like to do that. So if you make tea or soup with it, adding a bit of apple cider vinegar or a bit of lemon juice is a nice way to pull those minerals out as well and get some of those benefits. Horsetail, I dry. I lay it out on a old window screen or in a basket or something until the stems snap. When I break them, then I know that they're dry. And then I chop it up and I put it in a grinder, like a spice grinder or a coffee grinder. And I'll blend it. There's a bunch of different herbs that I'll blend it with. but this is an important one in the blend, to make my tooth powder, which I use to brush my teeth. So I just use like a little pinch of this powder on a wet toothbrush, and that's how I brush my teeth. So you're not getting the foamy experience, although there are some other herbs. Marshmallow is one that I put in to make it a little bit smoother and foamier, a little bit more like toothpaste. But really it's more just you get the grit of the powder. You get the silica, because I said it's a little bit crystalline. It's got this kind of grit to it, so it actually works like a scrubby on your teeth, so it helps to cleanse them that way. Plus you're brushing your teeth daily with all these minerals that help to really nourish them, and all the enzymes in your mouth will help to break them down and get you absorbing them through your gums and into your teeth. So I really like to do that. I really recommend it. If you're into brushing your teeth with tooth powder, you could also chop it up and extract it in like coconut oil, cook it into coconut oil like lightly, and then use that coconut oil as a base for brushing your teeth if you wanted to make your own toothpaste with a coconut oil based, and instead of a powder. So yeah, horsetail, strengthening the structures, strengthening the tissues of the whole system. It strengthens the integrity of the whole system. So if anything is boggy, inflamed, very sensitive, tendency towards infection and stuff, horsetail can be a really helpful remedy to think of. It strengthens the blood vessels. It strengthens the tissues around the kidneys and is a great kidney herb. It strengthens the bladder, is great for people who tend to get a lot of bladder infections, plus it acts as a diuretic and helps to clear stuff out. It strengthens the gums and the gum line if you've got like receding gum line, or you tend to get mouth infections. It strengthens the skin. You could make a strong pot of tea and put it in your bath and soak in it with Epsom salts, and it would support skin strength and also to some extent support the circulation. You can make an extract of it in oil and make an ointment that goes on to like varicose veins and such to help strengthen the integrity of them. So the silica is really great for strengthening integrity of structures, and really works well with the body in this way. Helps to repair damaged membranes, helps bones to heal, helps like damaged tissue to heal. So there are all kinds of different situations where you might consider bringing horsetail into a protocol for your health, to assist in these processes. And thankfully it's so abundant around here. Horsetail, Equesitum arvense. Yeah. And there we go. Tamara, horsetail, signing out.